Hello, I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of the Richards Trauma Process, or TRTP. So what is TRTP? TRTP is an elegantly simple yet comprehensive step-by-step process that resolves even the most extreme trauma and trauma-related issues, such things as PTSD, anxiety, depression, fears and phobias. It does it quickly, effectively and very safely, generally in 3 sessions. So how does it do that? Well, if you were to look at what we do in TRTP, the first thing that you'd notice is that we use hypnosis in each of the 3 sessions. And why do we do that? Simply because it makes logical good sense. Because trauma is housed in the body and in the unconscious. It's not housed in the conscious mind. If it was, we'd be able to say, well, it was 10 years ago, I'm going to get over it. But what happens is the physiology of the brain changes, the physiology of the body changes, and so we can't say that. I used to say, I want to let it go, but it won't let me go, until I understood how to have it let me go. So if you were to look further at what do we actually do once we're in hypnosis? Well, if you were to examine what we were doing, you'd see that that bit is parts therapy, that little paragraph is ego state therapy, and that little bit is Gestalt. But what happens is we bring these elements together and lots more in this simple step-by-step process, as I've said. And that creates some powerful, powerful outcomes, which these therapies by themselves don't deliver. So let's look at trauma. In order to understand TRTP, we have to really understand trauma. So what is trauma and why do some people get stuck in trauma? Let's look at the physiology. Let's look at a calm, normal person, if such a being exists. So a normal person living here at calm has a stressful event, they release stress hormones, they come back to calm. They may have a life-threatening event. They come up here to fight, flight, freeze, the danger passes, they self-regulate, they come back to calm. And that's the story of their life. What happens in trauma, however, if we just take a singular catastrophic event, like say for example the Black Saturday bushfires, the person never comes down from fight, flight, freeze. They're being continually re-triggered. And what does that feel like? It feels like flight and freeze at the same time. It's like the accelerator and the brake, pedal to the metal, 24/7. And it's very uncomfortable. And how do I know? Because unfortunately I've been there with extreme PTSD. So what's behind this? What's behind this is everything in this person's being is screaming, I'm not safe. Consciously, we know that the fire was last year, 7 years ago. But unconsciously, it's happening now. It's happening now. It's like a videotape loop. Because what happens actually on the day of the fire, for example, when we're under extreme stress, we release stress hormones, adrenaline, etc. What happens is the brain becomes overwhelmed with these hormones. The hippocampus and the amygdala, those parts of the brain responsible for memory, never take that day and make it yesterday, last week, last year, etc. As far as the unconscious is concerned, as far as the body is concerned, it's a 24/7 videotape loop. It's happening now, it's happening now. Consciously, we know it's over and don't understand why our body is in this hyper-aroused state all the time. Why we can't sit with our back to an open door, because danger is lurking everywhere. So what we want to do with our clients is, of course, bring them from I'm not safe to here, to I'm safe. It's over, and this it's over is hugely important. If you look at the work of Van der Kolk and Peter Levine, 2 of our top trauma experts, they say in order for trauma to be resolved, 2 things have to happen. 1, the person has to be moved to an empowered position in regard to the trauma, and 2, the body has to know it's over. Well, I'd go a little further, and I'd say the body and the unconscious have to know it's over and I'm safe now, and that's a different dynamic. So that's what TRTP does. It does it really quickly, really effectively, without re-traumatizing, bringing someone from fight, flight, freeze from I'm not safe to it's over. I'm safe now. So we can watch as in front of our eyes the client will lose, for example, the Parkinson's-like tremor of extreme PTSD. It quietens, it stills, and it doesn't come back. We watch as sometimes 20 years just disappears from the client, and we watch as their whole being goes from fight, flight, freeze to calm. It's over and I'm safe. How exactly do we make that happen so quickly? Well, it begins in session 1. In session 1, we deal with the unconscious core beliefs. Let's just go over that. What are unconscious core beliefs? They're the programs, the ideas that we lay down even before we're born until 7 years old. There's a reason why the Nazis and the Jesuits of the Catholic Church say, give me a child till they're 7 and they're mine for life. Because that's when our foundation goes down. So even before we're born, we're taking ideas of who we are, we're taking it on, how the world works, are we safe, are we wanted? And for those whose mothers were under extreme stress during pregnancy, that baby, even before it's born, is filled with stress hormones, is filled with the feeling of I'm not safe. Then they're born. For some people, that's a life-threatening experience. That in itself causes issues going forward. And for some, they're born into less than celebration and love. And of course, they put down the ideas that I'm not safe, I deserve to suffer, I don't deserve to be here, I shouldn't even be alive, I'm a burden, etc., etc. I don't deserve to be loved. And that is the foundation of their life. For others who are lucky enough to be born into love and care and celebration, we have our own issues, things happen. This runs our life. So if you're a therapist working, for example, to assist your client to become physically well, and their unconscious has the belief that it's not safe to be well, you're going to be pushing the proverbial uphill because the unconscious will keep them safe. If you're working with relationships, for example, in couples therapy, and the couples that you're working with have the unconscious core belief laid down when they were tiny that it's not safe to love or be loved. Everyone who loves me will abandon me. Everyone who loves me will hurt me. Well, get the unconscious on board first. Change the unconscious to the positive. I deserve to be loved. It's safe to be loved, etc., etc. Once you get the unconscious and the conscious in sync, wonderful things happen and there's no sabotage. So that's what we're doing in session 1. We're getting rid of sabotage going forward. We're cleaning the slate. What also happens when you do that is that we introduce the client to the truth of who they really are without those negative core beliefs. Because what's an identity? Our identity is based on these unconscious core beliefs. Change those to the positive and the entire identity changes. So by the end of the first session, our clients are generally feeling pretty darn good about themselves and empowered. And they're in an empowered position in order to go into the second session with no self-sabotage. And the second session is where the rubber really hits the road. That's where we work on the trauma of life. And it works brilliantly. What do? We do those two things that Van der Kolk and Levine talk about. We move the person to an empowered position in regard to the trauma and tell the body and the unconscious it's over and I'm safe now. So how do we do that? We use theatre of the mind. The body believes what we imagine. If you imagine sucking a lemon, your body will have the saliva response. It believes that that's the reality. In the same way, when we use our imagination positively, our body believes that that is actually happening. So we use theatre of the mind and we create scenarios for the client. So for example, a woman who as an 8-year-old was raped in the bunker by the uncle. She doesn't even have to tell the story. This is what I mean about not re-traumatizing people. We have people just write a timeline. How old were you? The name of the event, who was there. That's all we need to know. So this woman, 8 years old, rape at the bunker, uncle and myself. And the relief that she doesn't have to retell the terrible details of that. You can see it on her face. Or the soldier who says, 24 years old, the truck convoy, the truck in front of us, the landmine. I mean, use your imagination. And he says, is that all I have to do? Don't I have to tell you what happens? No, I don't want to tell. I don't want to hear it. Do you want to tell it? No, I don't want to tell it. Well, don't tell it. So we don't need the story. So the client arrives at a frozen scene. It's just after the incident at the bunker. And you take the young you out to a safe place. Everything is frozen in space and time. You come back. The uncle is frozen in space and time. You become the protector of that young child. There was no one there to protect her at that time, but by golly, there is now. And you deal with the perpetrator. What's really important is that we get the rage out. There's always rage with trauma. With PTSD, it is I think one of the worst symptoms. I know it was for me. This rage that erupts in solar flares at the people who are close to you. And you don't want to do it, but it just happens. So what we do is we get the rage out and direct it where it needs to go, to the perpetrator, because if we don't direct it there, it comes back and it manifests as anxiety, depression, the symptoms of PTSD, physical illness, etc. So we get it out and direct it where it needs to go, at the perpetrator. From the empowered self, not as the victim. If you do it as the victim is re-traumatized and relives the emotions again. So, having done that, we go back to the child self, the younger self, tell them it's over, it's safe now, we will protect you. There's lots we do there, giving that child everything that they need, or that younger person. And then we integrate. Bring that person in, that younger self, into self, and then we speak directly to the unconscious and directly to the body. I'm speaking to you, the unconscious, and to you, the body. Listen up, this is important. You're not there anymore. You're 52 years old now. You're not 8 years old. It's now this year, it's not that year. So every cell in your body, every aspect of who you are, right down to your soul, can now return to calm. Feel it. And this is where we witness the change in people. Often it's quite a visible change. So that's what we do in session 2. There are other things in there as well, and I'm telling you this with the proviso, with the caution. Don't take this and just use it without knowing more. You can do more harm than good. This is just the Reader's Digest condensed version. Use it carefully. If you're interested in learning more, do come and do it properly. You don't want to be hurting people. So, then we go on to session 3. Session 3 is a mop-up session. What do? We mop up, and then anything that needs to be done, and then we look at the future and create future focus. Why? Because people stuck here have no future focus. So we create the future, solidify everything we've done, and there we are. So there's an outline of TRTP. Thank you.